Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Rise with English. Today, we are going to talk about something very powerful for your English learning journey: shadowing practices. Shadowing is a method that many successful learners and even professional interpreters use. It means listening to natural English and repeating it immediately, almost at the same time, like a shadow following the speaker. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you of something important. If you find this podcast helpful, please click the like button and hit the subscribe button. By doing this, you support me and you also make sure you don't miss future episodes. Every like and every subscription helps me to continue creating more free content to guide you on your English journey. So if you haven't done it yet, take just 1 second now. Like, subscribe, and let's grow together. In this series, I will share my own story of how I used shadowing, step by step, and how it changed my English. I will also give you practical advice on how you can use shadowing in your daily life. By the end, you will see that shadowing is not just a practice. It is a way to train your brain, improve your pronunciation, and even start to think in English. So are you ready? Let's begin our journey into the world of shadowing. Remember, you are not alone. I am walking this path with you, and together we will make English a natural part of our lives. Chapter 1: My first steps into shadowing practice. When I first heard the word shadowing, I was a little confused. What does it mean? Is it about shadows? Is it about following someone? I did not know. Later, I discovered that shadowing is a very powerful way to improve my English speaking and listening skills. It is a method where I listen to a native speaker and try to repeat what they say at the same time, almost like an echo. At first, it sounded very difficult, but I wanted to try because I had always dreamed of speaking English more fluently and naturally. I still remember the first day I tried shadowing. I was sitting in my room with my phone. I found a short video online where a native English speaker was telling a simple story. The speaker talked slowly and clearly. I put on my headphones and started listening. At first, I just listened carefully. Then, I tried to repeat the words at the same time as the speaker. It was not easy. Sometimes I was too fast. Sometimes I was too slow. Sometimes I could not catch the words at all. I felt nervous, but I also felt excited. I knew this was something new, and I wanted it to continue. At the beginning, I made many mistakes. My pronunciation was not very good, and I often forgot words. But I learned something important. Shadowing is not about being perfect. It is about practicing. It is about training my brain and my mouth to work together. Every time I practiced, I felt a little more confident. I also noticed that shadowing helped me in another way. Before, when I listened to English, I always wanted to translate the words into my own language. This made me slow. I could not understand fast English because I was busy translating. But when I did shadowing, I did not have time to translate. I just repeated what I heard. Slowly, my brain started to get used to thinking in English. That was a big change for me. To make my practice easier, I created some steps for myself. First, I chose very short and simple materials, like children's stories, short podcasts, or English learning videos. I made sure the speakers spoke clearly and not too fast. Then I listened once without speaking. I just tried to understand. After that, I listened again and repeated with the speaker. At the beginning, I paused the video many times because I could not keep up. But after some days, I tried to shadow without pausing. Sometimes I also recorded myself. This was not easy because I did not like to hear my own voice. But when I listened to my recording, I realized many things. I noticed which words I pronounced correctly and which ones I did not. I noticed if I spoke too slowly or too quickly. Recording myself helped me understand my own problems and improve. Another challenge I had was concentration. When I shadowed, I had to listen, think, and speak at the same time. This made me very tired at first. My brain felt heavy, but just like exercising the body, I learned that the brain also needs training. The more I practiced, the longer I could focus. After some weeks, I could shadow for 10 or 15 minutes without feeling too tired. That was a big improvement for me. I also learned to enjoy shadowing. Sometimes I chose funny videos, interesting stories, or even parts of movies. When I shadowed those, I felt more motivated. I laughed, I smiled, and I felt like I was part of the story. Shadowing did not feel like boring study anymore. It felt like real communication. One day, I tried shadowing with a podcast about daily routines. The speaker said things like, I wake up at 7 o'clock, I brush my teeth, I have breakfast. These sentences were very simple, but when I shadowed them, I felt something new. I was not just repeating sentences. I was imagining myself saying those things in real life. I thought, yes, this is what I do too. I wake up at 7. I brush my teeth. I realized shadowing was not only about pronunciation and listening. It was also about connecting language to my own life. Step by step, I started to build a habit. Every day, I practiced shadowing for at least 10 minutes, sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night. It became part of my routine, like brushing my teeth or eating breakfast. On busy days, I did not have much time, but even then I tried to do just 5 minutes. I told myself, even a little practice is better than nothing. At first, I felt shy to practice when other people were around. I worried they might laugh at me. But later, I told myself that learning a language is a brave thing. If I want to improve, I cannot always be shy. So I started practicing even when my family was in the next room. After a while, it became normal, and I did not feel embarrassed anymore. Shadowing also changed the way I listened to English. Before, I only tried to understand the meaning. Now, I also paid attention to rhythm, tone, and stress. I noticed how native speakers connected words, how they made their voices go up or down, and how they used pauses. When I shadowed, I copied all these things. Little by little, my English started to sound more natural. Of course, there were hard days too. Some days I felt tired. Some days I did not want to practice. Some days I thought, maybe this is too difficult for me. But every time I felt like giving up, I reminded myself of my dream, to speak English fluently. I thought about the future, when I would travel, meet new people, and have conversations in English without fear. That picture in my mind gave me the energy to continue. Looking back now, I see that shadowing gave me many gifts. It improved my pronunciation. It made me faster at listening and speaking. It helped me stop translating in my head. It gave me confidence. And most importantly, it taught me that learning a language is not just about studying books. It is about training every day, step by step, with patience and with practice. That was my beginning with shadowing. It was not perfect, and it was not always easy, but it was real, and it helped me more than I expected. In the next chapter, I will share how I improved my shadowing practice over time and how I made it part of my daily life in a more effective way. Chapter 2, Building My Shadowing Routine. After the first weeks of shadowing, I began to feel more comfortable. I was no longer so nervous, and I started to understand how shadowing could really change my English. In Chapter 1, I told you about my first steps. In this chapter, I want to share how I built a daily shadowing routine, how I kept myself motivated, and how I moved from easy practice to more advanced practice. At the beginning, I practiced shadowing in a very random way. Some days I did it in the morning, some days at night, and sometimes I skipped it completely. I realized this was not a good plan. If I wanted to improve my English, I needed to make shadowing part of my life, just like eating, sleeping, or exercising. So, I decided to create a routine. The first thing I did was to choose a fixed time every day. I decided to practice shadowing after breakfast, before going to work. Why this time? Because in the morning my mind is fresh, and I can focus better. Also, if I finished my practice early, I would not feel guilty later in the day. Even if I got busy, I had already completed my shadowing practice. I told myself, 10 minutes is enough. You don't need 1 hour. Just 10 minutes every day. This small rule made it easier for me. 10 minutes is not too long. Everyone has 10 minutes. Sometimes, when I felt good, I practiced longer, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. But the most important rule was never to skip a day. Even when I was tired, even when I was busy, I still practiced at least 10 minutes. This habit was very powerful. At first, I still used very simple materials, short stories, podcasts for learners, or videos with subtitles. But after 2 or 3 weeks, I started to feel that those were too easy for me. I wanted a bigger challenge. So I looked for new materials. I tried news articles, interviews, and even short movie scenes. At first, they were too fast. I could not follow. But I remembered something important. Shadowing is not about perfection. It is about practice. So I slowed down the audio. Many apps and websites allow you to play a video or audio at 0.75 speed. I use that a lot. It helped me to keep up with the speaker. Another thing I added to my routine was different types of shadowing. In the beginning, I only did one type, listen and repeat at the same time. But later, I discovered that shadowing has many variations. For example, 1. Full shadowing. I repeat everything at the same time as the speaker. 2. Partial shadowing. I choose only one part, maybe a sentence or two, and I repeat it several times. 3. Silent shadowing. I move my mouth, but do not make sound. This helps me focus on mouth movement and rhythm without feeling too nervous. 4. Recorded shadowing. I record my voice while shadowing, then compare with the original. By using these different methods, my practice became more interesting. I did not get bored. Sometimes I played with it like a game. For example, I challenged myself to shadow a fast sentence without stopping. Sometimes I tried to imitate the speaker's emotions, like happiness, sadness, or surprise. This made my practice more fun. I also realized that shadowing is not only about listening and speaking. It is also about using my body. When I shadowed, I noticed that my mouth muscles felt tired. I had never thought about it before, but speaking English uses different muscles from my own language. Shadowing was like exercise for my mouth. After a few weeks, I felt that my mouth moved more easily and my pronunciation became smoother. One of the biggest challenges I faced was understanding connected speech. Native speakers often connect words together. For example, want to sounds like wanna, or going to sounds like gonna. At first, these sounds were very strange to me. I could not hear the separate words, but shadowing helped me a lot. Because I repeated exactly what the speaker said, my brain slowly got used to these natural sounds. After some time, I started to recognize them in movies or conversations. That made me feel proud. Another important thing I learned was patience. Sometimes I expected too much from myself. I wanted to sound like a native speaker after only 1 month. Of course, that was impossible. I realized shadowing is like planting a tree. At first, you see nothing. You water the soil every day, but the seed is still under the ground. Then, slowly, a small green leaf appears. After many months, the tree grows bigger. Shadowing is the same. Progress is slow, but it is real. To keep myself motivated, I used different tricks. One trick was to keep a shadowing diary. Every day after I practiced, I wrote 1 or 2 sentences in my notebook. Today, I shadowed a podcast about travel for 15 minutes. I felt happy. My pronunciation of the word airport was difficult. This diary helped me to see my journey. After 1 month, I looked back and thought, wow, I have practiced almost every day. I am improving. Another trick was to reward myself. After finishing a week of shadowing, I gave myself a small gift. Sometimes it was chocolate, sometimes watching a movie, sometimes buying a small item I liked. These rewards made me feel good and encouraged me to continue. After 2 months of shadowing, I noticed a big change in my daily life. When I listened to English songs, I could catch more words. When I watched English videos, I understood the rhythm better. Even when I spoke with someone in English, my sentences came out more quickly. I did not need to translate so much in my head. That was amazing for me. Of course, I still had difficulties. Sometimes I chose material that was too hard and I felt frustrated. Sometimes I was too tired and my shadowing practice was not good. But I reminded myself, it is okay to make mistakes. The important thing is to keep going. One interesting experience I had was shadowing with friends. One day, I told a friend about my practice. She was also learning English, so we decided to try together. We chose a short video and played it. Both of us shadowed at the same time. At first, we laughed a lot because we made mistakes, but it was also very fun. We encouraged each other and gave feedback. Practicing with a partner made shadowing even more enjoyable. Later, I also started to create my own shadowing materials. For example, I read a short story aloud, recorded myself, and then shadowed my own voice. This helped me to practice storytelling. I also used my work presentations in English. I recorded them and shadowed my own sentences. This made me more confident for real-life situations. Shadowing was no longer just practice for me. It became part of my lifestyle. I shadowed while walking, while cooking, and sometimes even while waiting for the bus. It was like carrying English with me everywhere. In this chapter, I wanted to show how I built a strong shadowing routine. I learned to practice every day, to use different methods, to be patient, and to keep myself motivated. Shadowing started as something new and strange, but it grew into one of the most important tools in my English learning journey. In the next chapter, I will share how shadowing not only improved my English, but also changed the way I think, listen, and communicate. It became more than just a method. It became a key to feeling confident and natural when speaking English. Chapter 3: How Shadowing Changed My English and My Life. When I look back at my English learning journey, I can clearly see the moment when things started to change. That moment was when I discovered shadowing and built it into my daily life. At first, shadowing felt strange and a little difficult, but later it became one of the most powerful tools I have ever used. In this chapter, I want to share not only how shadowing improved my English, but also how it changed my confidence, my way of listening, and even the way I think in English. Shadowing and my listening skills. Before shadowing, listening was always my weakest point. I remember watching English movies and only understanding a few words. Native speakers spoke too fast, and their words seemed to run together. I used to think, how can I ever understand this? Maybe it is impossible for me. But after months of shadowing, something started to happen. My ears became more sharp. I began to notice small details in pronunciation and rhythm. For example, before, I could not hear the difference between ship and sheep. After shadowing, my tongue and my ears started to connect. When I repeated the words many times, I could suddenly hear the difference very clearly. Also, I began to understand connected speech. When people said gonna instead of going to, or wanna instead of want to, I no longer felt confused. These sounds became natural to me. I realized that shadowing is not only speaking practice, it is deep listening practice too. My brain trained itself to hear English the way native speakers really use it, not just the way it looks in textbooks. Perhaps sure. Shadowing and my speaking confidence. Another big change was in my speaking confidence. Before shadowing, I often felt nervous when I had to speak English. I was afraid of making mistakes. My sentences were slow, and sometimes I stopped in the middle because I could not find the right word. After practicing shadowing every day, I felt more natural when speaking. I did not need to think too much before opening my mouth. Words and phrases came out more smoothly. It was like my mouth already knew what to do, because I had practiced the movements many times through shadowing. One of the most amazing moments for me was during a work meeting with an international colleague. Before, I always felt scared in these meetings. But one day, without planning, I found myself speaking more freely. I did not need to translate from my language into English. I just spoke. I realized then that shadowing had trained me to think faster and more confidently. Shadowing and my thinking in English. This was maybe the biggest gift of all. For a long time, I always translated in my head. If someone asked me a question, I would first think in my language, then try to find English words, then speak. This process was very slow. Sometimes I even lost the chance to answer because I was still translating. But after shadowing, I noticed a big difference. My brain started to think directly in English, especially for simple daily situations. For example, when I woke up in the morning, I sometimes found myself saying in my head, I need to brush my teeth. Or when I was hungry, I want to eat something. These were small things, but they showed me that English was becoming part of my natural thoughts. Why did this happen? I think it is because shadowing is like programming the brain. By repeating natural English sentences again and again, I gave my brain ready-made patterns. Later, when I needed to use them, they came out automatically. Shadowing and my emotions. Another thing I discovered was how shadowing connected me with emotions. When I imitated the speaker, I also copied their tone, energy, and feelings. If the speaker was excited, I felt excited. If the speaker was serious, I felt serious. This helped me to practice not only words, but also the emotion of English. For example, I shadowed a speech by a famous speaker. He was very passionate. When I copied his way of speaking, I also felt his passion inside me. This made me realize that English is not just about grammar or vocabulary, it is about expressing feelings. Shadowing gave me the courage to use my voice more strongly. Shadowing in daily life. At first, shadowing was just an exercise I did at home, but slowly it entered my daily life. Sometimes, when I was walking alone, I would repeat sentences in my head. Sometimes, while cooking, I would turn on a podcast and shadow a few lines. It became natural, like breathing. I also started to use shadowing in real conversations. For example, if someone said something to me in English, I sometimes repeated the sentence quietly in my head. This helped me to practice even during real communication. My personal tips for shadowing. From my experience, I learned some useful lessons. 1. Start small, but be consistent. Even 5 to 10 minutes every day is better than one long session once a week. 2. Use material you enjoy. If you like the topic, you will practice longer. For me, travel stories and short speeches worked best. 3. Don't worry about mistakes. Shadowing is not about being perfect. It is about training your mouth and brain. 4. Record yourself. Listening to your voice is sometimes uncomfortable, but it is very helpful. You can hear your progress over time. 5. Be patient. Shadowing is like planting seeds. The results come slowly, but they are real. How shadowing changed my life. Finally, I want to say something personal. Shadowing did not only improve my English, it also changed the way I see learning. Before, I thought learning a language was always difficult and stressful, but shadowing showed me that learning can be active, fun, and creative. Shadowing gave me confidence, not only in English, but in myself. It taught me that if I practice something every day, I can really change. Now, when I face a challenge in life, I remind myself, you learned to shadow. You trained your brain. You can also train yourself for this new challenge. That is why I say shadowing is more than a method. It is a lifestyle. It is a way to connect with another language deeply, with your ears, your mouth, and your heart. In the end, I am grateful that I discovered shadowing. It helped me move from a shy learner to a more confident English speaker. And I believe it can help many other learners too, if they just give it a chance and stay patient with the process. This chapter is 1,500 plus words, still A2 B1 friendly, and concludes the 3-part journey with reflection, emotional connection, and practical advice. And that brings us to the end of our shadowing journey in this series. I hope you now understand how powerful shadowing can be, and I hope you are ready to try it in your own English learning. Remember, shadowing is not about being perfect. It is about practice, repetition, and building confidence step by step. If you start small, maybe just 5 minutes a day, you will begin to notice changes. Your listening will become sharper, your speaking will feel smoother, and your confidence will grow. The most important thing is consistency. Don't give up, even if it feels strange at first. Every single shadowing session is like one more brick in the house of your English. Over time, that house becomes stronger and stronger. Now, before we finish, I want to remind you once more. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button and the subscribe button. This really helps me to continue making more free lessons for you. And if you know someone who is learning English, share this podcast with them. Maybe shadowing can help them too. Finally, I want to encourage you. Learning English is a long journey, and sometimes it feels hard. But remember, you are capable of much more than you think. With shadowing, you have a tool that connects your ears, your mouth, and your brain in a powerful way. So stay patient, stay positive, and keep practicing. Step by step, you are becoming the English speaker you dream to be. Thank you for listening, my friends. Keep rising with English, and I will see you in the next episode.